Okay, hey everybody. So I posted a poll on Twitter yesterday, and a lot of you guys kind of voted for a daily kind of watch list. Totally understandable. So I'll try and make them early enough where the West Coast and East Coast people can both view it before the opening bell tomorrow. Um, and for future references for any other day. So I'll try to get it out as early as possible. I know sometimes there's some factors that play, but I'll go ahead and try to get it as early as possible. Okay, so um, for Tesla here, I really like kind of this channel. I know it's kind of messy, but we played this earlier today as well, where every single time it enters this channel or this support that it's previously held, it does tend to go within this resistance area, and then it typically bounces off the first time, right? And then that's where you just, as soon as there's a pull down, that's kind of where I just take profit. And the same thing goes when I see the rejection, kind of wait, and then I'll play the bounce again. Now, it does seem like it's breaking. That's not necessarily a reason to get puts quite yet because the market's been kind of bouncing up and down. So typically, when it's choppy and price action just keeps popping up and back down, you want to play the rejection or the bounces off supports. Now, you typically only want to play the break of support and the break of resistance when it's like a trend day or the volume's coming in hot. So it's just to avoid potential fake outs, in my opinion. I'm making this where the aftermarket hours are still moving. You guys can just ignore that for right now. Okay, let's see. For Starbucks, I do like this support area right here. Um, it's kind of the channel very similar to how I was mentioning about Tesla. You can even make this maybe right here. When I draw these lines, especially for my watch list, it's typically this area, so you don't have to wait for the line, but it's typically this area where you might see a rejection, right? So I drew my line at the top, obviously, but it can reject a little bit closer to this end level. The only reason I don't put triangles is because, or these rectangles, is because I typically designate these type of rectangles for gaps if you've seen that video. So just not to confuse anybody, but ideally this to maybe this range would be where I would see a potential rejection. Um, Now we did have some sell volume come in at the end of the close, so that's something to keep an eye on. But notice how every single time it approaches the bottom of the RSI, we typically see it bounce. So like if I were to just trail this, this is where the RSI is. If I come down here, it's at the bottom of the RSI, and then it typically pops back up. So I would definitely wait for confirmation, right? So just because it's touching this line, don't smash calls quite yet because it can go further down. But you just want to wait for confirmation in either direction. And it typically just depends on a day-to-day basis, right? So I don't know how tomorrow is going to be, but recently it's been pretty choppy because of all the Fed speakers. So AMD, I think it's going back into that line of the minute it breaks this 20 EMA on the 15 minute, it typically holds its trend, right? So from here, from this 95 all the way to 103, that is a pretty drastic move. I wasn't expecting it that much of a change, but it just kept flying. Now it's overextended, right? So I will be making a video for kind of this RSI as one of the indicators, but basically anything above this line is overbought, right? And then everything below this is oversold. So now that it is way past it, you can typically expect some sort of pullback, right? Now look at the volume here. Notice that the same time you got this, the last time you had this kind of sell volume right around the crossing of this 20 EMA on the 15 minute, it did trickle down. So that is something I'm definitely watching from right there. Now, if it does start to go down, you want to set your PTs. I would say the first PT would be this level right here, this 97. Um, you could definitely take profit off like way before that, right? So I'm assuming it opens up kind of flat or maybe even at this right below this 101 marker. That's still a pretty good range. Now, if you play this entire thing, that's a solid 60%, but remember to trim around the first trim should be 10 to 20% because the market has been absolute trash. Um, Also, just keep an eye of this EMA could bounce off of it because it is coming down pretty hot. So Netflix, it's been following this trend line quite a bit. So I mentioned on my Twitter, um, this trend line was a big thing to watch, and now that it is breaking to the upside, it's been kind of basing around at the bottom of the RSI. I definitely think it can go up, right? So you have a gap fill here. So I'm gonna do is take a triangle. It is small, so I feel like Netflix can easily fill this up within one or two candles. But this is ideally the level that you wanna see. So now that it did break, let's see how it opens tomorrow. And then if it comes here, potentially is where I would kind of go for the calls. You can get it early, and then if it falls below this level again, then I would hit your stop loss. For shop, I did like the upside for this. I know it broke support, but it's the RSI again. Every single time that it broke the RSI at the bottom, it typically bounces up. I ideally wanted a bounce right here on this initial one, right here. And then another good one would have been right there because it's bounced and wicked once, twice. Now would have been a third time, but we just didn't get it. And I think it's because there was a flush towards the end of day to day, but um, I'm hoping market kind of pops back up. So if it does, obviously this is where I'm drawing my first PT, the 62.23. I think it comes right back into this channel, curls back up, and hits this. For coin, I definitely see a cup forming here. We'll do it a little bit more narrow like that. And typically, if you guys know on a cup formation, what happens is it forms a cup, it forms the handle, and then eventually further down. Now, to play this, you typically want to wait for the head, for the for it to break the entrance of the head, right? So this is kind of where it would be. I mean, you can be pretty safe and play at the end of the wicks here, but now I'm placing it to where my entries would be, right? So if I had an alert right here, this is where I'd start watching it because you want to get in at a decent time, right? You don't want to wait too far. So and I'd have to be shuffling through all my charts. So this is where I'd put my alert, and then as soon as it gets triggered, I'd flip to this chart and then confirm that it's not going to wick. So definitely wait for the candle to close before your entry. And then if it does break, I'll throw a price target. It's going to be quick, I think. It's 56.51. It's because for price targets, I try to be quick. And what I'm looking for is just like these pivot points, right? So I see a wick here, candle, some wicks, another candle and a wick, and then like basing around here. So that's typically just how I do it. If you get it from here, 57, and close at 56, coin does move pretty fast. So that's still about 30-40%. It's good enough. Now, if we have an absolute dump of a day where it does start entering this gap fill, that's even better. Oops. You can't hold shift when you're doing this, I guess. But again, I'm just gonna keep extending this out until coin eventually does hit this area. Roku is at support. Um, another potential bounce zone here or potential drop. The volume for the sell was there, but that, like I said, was kind of just the sell off towards the end of the day today. Um, it just really depends on how the market opens tomorrow. Now, if everything's dumping, then you can definitely play the downside on the puts, and if that were the case, I'll zoom out a little bit to see where the PT would be. But let's see. I see the end of this wick right here. Again, I'm drawing these really close because market's been bad, but there's one, there's two, there's a gap, there's, we'll count the gap as three, four right there. And that's still 52 to 49. That's a $3 move on a pretty cheap stock. So now if we do see a bounce, let's go back to the 15-minute really quick. Ideally, we'll do this right there, 53. That one's a little shorter. And then you can just keep using this dotted lines right here to keep drawing it higher and higher. But the next one, oh, this one's perfect because you'll hit this gap fill right here. So let me draw that in. This gap's pretty small where you can fill it within one candle, I think. But so you can definitely see which way it opens. I'm not playing Target yet. They do have earnings right before the bell. So I just put this on the watch list because you can expect a play on Target depending on how it opens. I didn't want to play it before because you get IV crushed, but the day after or the day of earnings, if they report in the morning, the contracts are much cheaper. So um, that's why I just have this on the watch list. Just keep an eye out for earnings. I think Walmart has their earnings tomorrow, or no, not tomorrow. Sorry, Thursday. Pins. I have this on the watch list because I like the daily chart on this. So it's not going to be a quick options play for tomorrow, but I think this is a great chart, and I'll go over it right here. So it's at the bottom of the RSI, which is perfect because you have a resistance right here that it's already hit on the daily. You've had a massive earning gap right here. So break above this resistance, you can definitely play it up to 24.44. Now, I don't know how long it would take or if I would do options on this. I'd maybe stick to commons. So like just buying the stock and just waiting for it to hit this area and then potentially trimming and then playing it up to this 27.04 mark. Now, when we do enter this gap fill is maybe when we can look for safer option bet. Stocks are just cheaper. Um, or not cheaper, sorry, safer. Now, there is a support line here at 20.74. You could fix it to maybe put that towards the end of the wicks for both those. So that would be 20.61. So if you do get in, I would definitely wait for the break of this or potential bounce at this level right there. So I know that was fairly quick. I didn't really like much of the other charts just because it was basing around. So I didn't want to throw anything on there that I didn't think was good. But that's basically it for right now. You guys can go ahead and drop comments if there's certain stocks that you think would be good. And I should have some time after the Lakers game today, and I'll throw them on either Twitter or make another video probably addressing those if that's something that you guys would like. I don't know if I could just respond to the comments directly, but yeah, that's it for me today. I know this was a lot quicker, so hopefully this helps. Thanks.